Welcome back to the Sound for More channel. It's Leo speaking. Today we continue to learn how to use strokes, and we're going to focus on how to use the sampler, or explain a little bit about the sampler before we continue with more complex topics. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. Okay, we are inside strokes as a UV3 inside AUM. So let's type some or enter some steps on channel number 1. You know that when you have done that, you need to go to voices to establish something that can actually produce a sound for the particular channel, in this case channel number 1. So let's focus on the very first one, the sampler. So when you select it, you have a button here which says load a sample. Click on it, and then of course you can browse somewhere where you can, for example, load a sample. So for example, let's scroll down and select a piano note that I previously made available. Now let's click play. And of course, it will play what you see here, these steps which we have created for channel number 1. Okay, let's go back to voices. Now, you have a gain here, which you can use to increase the volume. Okay, so you also have an attack here and also a decay, so your envelope. I like to give a little bit of attack, so I avoid, for example, clicking noises. And of course, you can then adjust your decay as you like, i.e. the time it takes for the note to come down to 0, to the sound to come down to 0, while the attack is the time it takes to actually reach the top of the volume. Okay, so if you look at the sample, you see a flag here, so click on it and you can actually move the position of the different point, really. So you can actually activate the starting point, as you can see, like so, and also the end point. And of course, for example, we can say the starting point is activated there, and then the end point is activated there. Sometimes if you find it difficult to pinpoint or activate the end point, just use your fingers instead of the mouse, and then you'll see that it will come available. But again, if I was to try here, load the sampler and load something in there, for example, a kick there, and then you can see the flag there. Okay, and then of course you can move that as you like. You can see it's still, and somewhere in the middle here I can activate, of course, also the end, which is described like this, with this flag pointing to the left. Now, if you reverse, i.e. you put the start after the end, like that, and you click play, you will find like so. Okay. Like that. You need to, of course, oops, like that. Let's try. Is playing in reverse, which is quite interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, just remember that you can also do that. Okay, next you have a root note, and that is very important. It establishes the lowest root note that you can choose for in this case, the sampler, this particular sound. Click on it, and then you have a keyboard, and then you choose which one you like. And then, of course, click close when you're finished. Gain, we have already gone through. And then here you have a section for the filter. In this case, you have a low-pass filter, band-pass filter, and a high-pass filter. You can set the resonance here and the frequency cutoff. Okay, next you have send effects for your reverb and delay. So these two acts in percentages in terms of how much of the signal is sent to the reverb effect, which you can find right here on the screen here for the voices. So let's click play. And then, of course, adjust some of the settings here on the reverb. And of course, you can do the same for the delay. Next, what we have down here is a section which establishes how much of modulation you want to do for the frequency, decay, reverb, and delay. Underneath, you see it says WA, and that is standard for weight A, and for matrix 1, weight B, matrix 2. As you can see at the moment, the weight A is roughly 50% for the frequency, and that is the frequency of the filter here. So if you go to the sequencer here, you notice that down this voice modulation section, you have for channel 1, it says already sampler, and then for weight A, it says frequency, and that is 0.5. So if I was to increase that to a maximum of 1 and going back to voices, you will find that has gone up to maximum. Okay, so that, and we'll come back to how voice modulation works in an upcoming tutorial. So you can do that for matrix 1 decay, reverb, weight B, and as I said, delay for, in this case, the matrix 2. But it depends really how they are assigned here in the voice modulation. Okay, next you have an A-B button, click on it, and you get a representation here of your keyboard. So you can click notes and they become black. In that case, you're actually setting notes not to be played, which is quantization. So let me show you. Because I removed the first note, C, and I said mute, that is going to take the next one, which is a C sharp or a D flat. And you can continue like that. And so on and so forth. Of course, you can mute if it is playing that voice, like so. Or you can also solo it, okay? You also have access here to the modulation, which is the same voice modulation that you find under the sequencer here. Again, it is for easy access. Let's click on it again. Then you have further access to the pitch modulation. So you can increase this, for example, 1.25, which again, you will see reported here, 1.25 for matrix 1 in the voice modulation. And I will come back with a future tutorial on how the voice modulation works. Okay, next, what do we have? Double click to reset it, of course. We can fine tune the pitch. We can set the pan left, right, and center. We can change the start and end point for your sample. Again, you can do a refinement. This one is a bit crash, and this one is sample rate reduction. The bit which I really like is also that the bit crash has a kind of auto leveling function, so it will decrease the volume as you increase from 0 to 1 the parameters. So that is really handy. One thing I would like to also add before we close for this tutorial is if you look at the note, you establish the lowest root note here, selecting root. Then what happens after that, you have the note which is selected here for the channel, which is established on the left-hand channel here. So for example, you can change C1 here to be C sharp 1. You see the change in there happening, right? Okay. And then of course, you can further modulate it through the modulation, like the matrix here and also the voice modulation. And then at the end, of course, you can also apply quantization here. So there are different ways that you can affect the note or the pitch. And of course, I also forgot that you have the ability here to change up and down for the channel octave for the note which has been selected. Okay, I hope you enjoy the tutorial, and as always, see you next time. Bye.